Let's talk about what you can track. It's all about tracking. Let's talk about what you can track that will tell you whether or not you're in a calorie deficit. Before we talk about these specific things that I want you to track to find out if you're in a calorie deficit, I want to stress that this concept of tracking things about your day and about your body is not as daunting as it sounds. I'm going to give you 4 different things to track here. And I promise that tracking these things will add no more than 10 to 15 minutes of work to your day. That's what we're at most. And as you do this for longer, that amount of time reduces because it just becomes a habit, right? We said that at the outset. You do things over and over and over again, they become habit, you get better at them, you're able to do them quicker, and then it's just a reflex. You don't even think about it, it just becomes part of your day and it takes less time. This stuff is not hard to do, especially in 2021 going to 2022 with the type of technology that we have, that I know, since you're listening to a podcast right now, I know you have the ability to do this and it will not take a lot of time. So here's a list of what you should track if you really want to know for sure if you're in a calorie deficit. Number 1, you should track your nutrition. Number 2, you should track your body weight. Number 3, you should measure your waistline. And number 4, you should take progress photos. Okay? And let's dive into each one of those so I can give you details on how to do each one of these. And we'll start with tracking nutrition because I mentioned before, addressing your nutrition is going to be what's most impactful, right? To get into a calorie deficit and lose weight, lose body fat. Tracking your nutrition is going to be the most impactful step. So you're adjusting your nutrition by tracking it and finding out what tweaks you can make. So tracking your nutrition is probably the most impactful of these 4. And luckily, there are free tools out there that you can use that allow you to easily tally up what you eat each day. The tool that I use for nutrition tracking with all of my clients is MyFitnessPal. I have an article on how to track your macros on my website, which has more details on using nutrition tracking to get into a calorie deficit easily. So you could just search Chris Gates Fitness, how to track your macros. You could also find a link to that in the article that's linked in the show description for this podcast if you want to learn more. MyFitnessPal has a huge database of virtually any food that you could eat. So if you haven't used MyFitnessPal, I would recommend you download it onto your phone and play around with it for a week and see how easy it is. You can scan barcodes of the foods that you eat. So if you're eating like a protein bar, you can open up the camera in MyFitnessPal, scan the barcode for that protein bar or any other food that has a barcode. It will automatically show you how many calories, how many grams of protein, carbohydrates, fat, and all you have to do is click a check mark and it adds it to your daily diary. And as you go throughout the day, you add foods to your diary, it will tally up how many calories, how many protein, carbs, fat, and at the end of every day, you'll get to see what your intake looks like. And if you do that consistently, day after day after day, week after week after week, you get an idea of what your average intake is. That is really, really, really important, and it's really easy. And if you can start to play around with this and start to get an idea of what your average intake looks like, you can combine that with these next 3 things that I want you to track, and it will help you learn whether or not you're in a calorie deficit. So you're tracking nutrition. You should also track your body weight every 1 to 2 days. And this one is super simple. I have most of my clients do weigh-ins every other day, and we do it in the morning. And what we do, I have a guide to body composition tracking that I give all my clients. It outlines how we're going to manage and track this type of stuff. And what we do for daily weigh-ins is every other day we step on the scale first thing in the morning. So you wake up, use the bathroom, step on the scale, and you log that weight. And you just like tracking nutrition, you do this consistently day after day after day, week after week after week. You start to get an idea of what your average body weight is and then what your body weight trend is over time. I have an article on my website, How to Weigh Yourself Properly. So Chris Gates Fitness, How to Track Your Weight. If you Google that, you will find an article that outlines the specific steps on how to track your body weight, because yes, there is a right and wrong way to do it. And there's actually only one right way to do it. And there's a whole hell of a lot of wrong ways to do it. So check that out. On a bi-weekly basis, I also want you taking waist measurements. So every 2 weeks, I want you to very simply grab a tape measure and wrap it around your waist, have it at the top of your hip bone and bring it around your waist and to the front, and mark down what that waist measurement is, okay? Every 2 weeks. And finally, you should take progress photos. And these are photos where you're in your underwear and you take them from the front, from the left side, from the right side, and from the back. And you're going to do this once a month. And these are really, really important because as we talk about your body weight and your waist measurements, those are pretty straightforward. If you're seeing your body weight consistently go down, you're in a calorie deficit. And there's no more guesswork. If you see your waist measurements go down over time, it's a pretty good chance you're in a calorie deficit. But you can possibly be in a calorie deficit without seeing your weight go down and without necessarily seeing your waist measurement change all that much. And that's why we take progress photos, because sometimes you won't see progress on the scale or with your waist measurements, but your body composition may be changing. And this is something that causes a lot of people to quit. A lot of people don't see progress on the scale for 2 to 3 weeks and they just say, screw it. I can't do this. Losing weight's just not for me. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. This is ridiculous. I quit. And people don't understand that, like, if you started going to the gym because you want to lose weight, you started lifting weights, and maybe it's the first time you've lifted weights in years, there is a unbelievably good chance that you are building muscle while burning body fat. And as you add muscle and burn fat, the scale weight may not change, but your body composition could be changing dramatically. And there's no other way to capture that type of progress than tracking how you look. So if you combine these progress photos with your scale weight, with waist measurements, you're doing everything possible to capture your progress. You're going to capture each and every possible form of progress to determine if you're in a calorie deficit. And that's important because, like I just said, you can be in a calorie deficit without losing any weight. You would be shocked at how often this happens. I'm thinking of 4 or 5 clients right now that I have that the weight on the scale has stayed the same, but in their progress photos, their bodies are changing dramatically. Really, really important to understand that. So here's an example of how this could happen for you. Say you adjust your nutrition, you get in a calorie deficit, and at the same time, like I said, you start lifting weights as part of your exercise program. In this situation, it's very likely that you lose body fat and you build muscle at the same time. Your scale weight will not change in this scenario because you'll be both losing tissue from body fat, but building tissue for muscle in your body. The scale won't change, but your body composition will. In this scenario, if you are only tracking your body weight, and God forbid, if you're only tracking your body weight poorly, if you're doing it at the wrong times with the wrong, setup, you will think you're not making progress when you actually are. And that could lead to you trying to change your plan, changing something that's already working. It could lead to you abandoning it altogether. And either way, either of those options suck, because if you just would have paid a little bit more attention to some of these details that we just went through, you could have continued what you were doing and made dramatic progress. But now that you're listening to this podcast episode, I'm confident that you will not let that happen. You will not let that happen to you. So that's why these waist measurements and progress photos, in addition to your scale weight, combined with tracking your nutrition, will help you get on the right path, get the right data, and inform the right decisions moving forward.